When you look and listen to all the recent news about the NBA offseason, you hear about a lot of players. Anthony Edwards and how he will make that next step as the new face of the league and making it farther in the playoffs with the new defensive minded Minnesota Timberwolves. Jalen Brunson, who has made a name for himself in New York, being known as the King of New York by giving the Knicks hope as a new postseason threat with the Villanova crew of Mikal Bridges and Tom Thibodeau, Josh Hart, and those guys. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander had his immense breakout season with Oklahoma City Thunder, putting himself top three in MVP voting, showing that he is ready to be called a top 10 talent in the league. And then there's the champions, Jalen Brown and Jason Tatum, who are coming off an NBA championship, showing that they're prominent threats in the league. And Tatum can be seen as a number one option on the championship team, and Jalen Brown can be seen consistently playing as a superstar on a caliber level alongside him. But what about Giannis? Why hasn't the two-time MVP been brought up during this current offseason? And why have people been overlooking this NBA superstar? Has Giannis Antetokounmpo become an underrated superstar? For the past 2 3 years, it's more really like this year, but Giannis has been getting more overlooked more and more as an NBA superstar and even as an NBA champion. Even though there is more talent rising in the NBA, like Anthony Edwards, Jason Tatum, Luka Doncic, who need that attention, and bringing the table as NBA players and NBA talents. Besides the injury that he got for the remainder of the season, I feel like he should have been higher in the MVP voting. He should have been. He averaged 30, 11, and 6, shooting 60% from the field, with a freshly acquired Damian Lillard who's giving you points as well. So it's like how him being only fourth in MVP voting because of his injury and then not being talked about for the rest of the season and postseason. I feel like that's just a little bit off because there's a lot of players that have gone to talk and they're just not on the same level as Giannis Antetokounmpo. As I said, Giannis averaged this season 30 points, 11.5 rebounds, 6.5 assists, shooting 60% from the field. This is like statistically one of his best seasons, even though he only missed 9 games. It's not like he missed 10, 15 games to the point where like being ruled out of the MVP voting is obvious. He could have still won MVP even though he missed 9 games. And he showed that he was valuable when he missed those 9 games because the Milwaukee Bucks went 4-5 without him, and they lost by large margins when he wasn't playing. Such as in the first game on January 17th when they played against the Cleveland Cavaliers, they lost by 40 points without Giannis, and that shows that how Giannis is a valuable player on this team and shows how he can just he provides a whole different aura like and a whole different like he's just a different player when the Bucks are playing with him. And on the last game, another large loss when Giannis didn't play on March 14th when they lost to the Magic, Orlando Magic, by 25 points. So that just shows that Giannis being out of the top three MVP voting shows something. But Shea Gilgeous-Alexander is, and that makes a little bit no sense. I know he had a good breakout season and shows that he can be a top 10 player in the league, but the stats don't show that he had a better season, and like he just started getting this good. So just to put him over Giannis already, that's a little bit of disrespect. Giannis has been top five in the MVP voting for actually 6 out of his 11-year career. His dominance has been a stamp on his league for several years, and it continues to be because he is nowhere near slowing down and is still a top three talent in the NBA. For him to be overlooked by other stars in the league when Giannis has proved that he can lead a team to a championship and dominate and take over big games shows why he's a top three player in the league. And these new stars that are on the come up are just not like Ant and Brunson and SGA. Like they can bring their team, even Tatum. Like, they can bring their team to high hopes, but they can't do what Giannis did. They can't dominate the floor on both ends the way Giannis does, and it's like it shows that Giannis Antetokounmpo is really one of the best players we have in this league. That late season injury that sat Giannis for 9 regular season games in the rest of the playoffs shouldn't have added on to his should have added on to the overlooking of Giannis Antetokounmpo and his success because, as I said, he played one of his great seasons, and like this is just starting to help people forget that Giannis can dominate in the postseason. Like just like in that championship run in 2021 when they played against the Phoenix Suns and they won in 6 games. In game 6, Giannis went on to drop 50 points, 40 rebounds, and 5 blocks. This he dropped a 50 piece in a closing game, and that was supposed to prove and put a stamp on this league that Giannis can take over in the postseason, and he's a liable threat to playoff teams. In that 2021 championship run, in that playoff run, Giannis's stats from the regular season jumped in the playoffs. Like in the regular season, he averaged around 28 points, 11 rebounds, and 6 assists. But once the playoffs came, that it jumped to 30 points, 13 rebounds, and 5 assists. And that shows that Giannis becomes a big time performer in big time moments. And Giannis can take over the game when he has to. And people talk about, oh, he doesn't have a jump shot, he doesn't have this and that. He still provides the energy he does without having a jump shot on the defensive end. It picks up. So Giannis can always get a bucket down the floor, run into the basket, getting a layup, getting a dunk, and then getting a block on the other end, getting a steal on the other end, making a defensive stop. And that impact is what makes the Bucks a top three team in the East. Even in the playoff series after, when they took the Celtics to 7 games, this shows that Giannis put up big time numbers in big time moments. Because in this series, they did not have their second star, Chris Middleton, who was a providing scorer, who was a shot creator for this team. And without them, literally, Giannis went on to put up three 40-point games, two 20-20 games, and one of those 20-20 games being a 40-20 game. And he shot efficient. He shot great the whole series. He averaged almost 32 points, 14 rebounds, and almost 7 assists, while leading the playoffs in points. Even though they lost in 7 games to the championship contending Boston Celtics, like, you can still show that Giannis can lead his team to greatness and lead his team to where they got to take him. This all shows that Giannis Antetokounmpo is still a top three talent in this league and will continue to dominate the league with his play style. Giannis' unstoppable offense by getting to the basket with his speed and strength along with his prolific defense is what makes Giannis Antetokounmpo Giannis Antetokounmpo, and which is one of the biggest threats in the league. So you can't. So to keep him out of the conversation of the best players and rising players is just wrong because he's still that guy. You still hear you still hear Curry's name being talked about, KD's name being talked about, even LeBron's name being talked about. But we know about LeBron. We know about those are like the big three in the league right now. But still, to hear Tatum's name, to hear Brunson's name, to hear SGA's name, and leave Giannis out shows that Giannis is becoming more of an underrated superstar. And if this continues to happen, it's gonna get real scary for the league because next season, if he starts to perform and starts to compete the way he does, they're gonna realize that people haven't really been talking about him, and he's gonna start looking to become an MVP contender and be that same guy.